2018 is a seminal moment in time for the automobile industry as it undergoes a transition to autonomous vehicles, an industry Morgan Stanley estimates to be worth $1.3 trillion. Today, we're in the infancy of a large-scale development phase, but as we make this transition, we have to ask ourselves two key questions. First, what does the transition to AVs mean for society? And second, what do we want out of the future of transportation? Clayton Christensen, a professor at Harvard Business School, regarded as the father of disruption theory, states that nearly 100% of the net jobs in our history have been created by disruptive innovation. So it's pretty reasonable to predict that, like other transformative network technologies, AVs too should create massive business opportunities. While the internet itself had concerns for many people about its ability to take all of our jobs, it instead added nearly 3 jobs for every job lost. That's not to say that AVs won't cause some industries to take a major hit. That's just what disruption does. Businesses are forced to pivot or be left behind. KPMG in a 2015 study estimated that the auto repair industry would lose at least 25% of their revenue. And with less car accidents, we can expect to see insurance agencies that net $180 billion annually in revenue from car accidents to take a significant hit, considering 90% of accidents are said to be caused by human error. But going back to the vast benefits of the introduction of AVs, we can not only ensure our own safety, but also that of our grandparents and children. Try to envision a future where you can trust your kids are safely being transported to school without any help. Or imagine you and your friends getting to watch The Office on a road trip. Or what if you could spend the entirety of your 45-minute commute rehearsing the most important presentation of your life? That's the thing. AVs can provide us with so much utility and become a net positive for our economy due to the new markets it would create. However, incorporating such a high-demand revolutionary technology will have its own set of issues. So, how can we anticipate these issues and better prepare ourselves? In the early and mid-1900s, public investments were made more regularly into innovative projects to spur economic productivity. These projects had varying degrees of success, but the investments made into the interstate highway system in particular are said to have produced between 50 to 60% in economic returns and have dramatically shifted our productivity since. It's overall fair to say that these private investments have been more successful when it comes to innovation. But this signals a deeper issue. Our government remains behind on new developments and trends. And it might feel like venture capital is flooded with resources, but that's still not the case, as the industry has just a tiny fraction of the wealth that public investment firms have. A few private companies seem to have exorbitant valuations, but these are generally startup concepts like Airbnb and Uber, which tend to justify those valuations by providing tremendous consumer value and reimagining industries. But actual moonshot ideas with heavier capital costs and higher barriers to entry, such as Tesla, mostly don't receive the kind of upfront backing they need to disrupt lagging industries because they're just not considered safe investments. These are the sort of investments, though, that both the government and private firms need to occasionally make to generate real sustainable value. Instead, we more often have government-funded projects like a bullet train in California that's able to secure billions of dollars in funding only to be 11 years behind schedule. So to make investments that show progress, it's essential we're actually using the knowledge we've compounded over time in engineering and physics to build forward-thinking and efficient transportation systems. Each mode of transportation has a major role to play. To reach peak efficiency in planning, innovation efforts need to be placed in all areas of transportation to continue pushing boundaries. The train system in the US was a groundbreaking innovation in the early 1800s, but since building a transcontinental railroad in 1869, the train system just hasn't improved much, especially when compared to Europe's train system. Enter the hyperloop, a concept brought to prominence by Elon Musk, who projects that underground pods will soon be able to transport people back and forth at supersonic speeds far faster than those of a bullet train. And the price tag? Just around $6 billion. The Hyperloop One, a company that has made advancements on Musk's original idea, has already mentioned that the project will cost much more than Musk's stated number, but still easily beats out a bullet train's efficiency. The company's managed to secure $300 million in funding and has opened facilities in Spain and Texas, while also working on opening a facility in India as well. Things are moving at a brisk pace, but the funding a project like this receives still pales in comparison to most government-backed projects. And while AVs have a promising future, the potential success of their integration remains a big question, especially with government lagging behind on technological trends. This means that the goal of building up transportation modes in unison could be getting lost. As a government, understanding the underlying reasons for these investments is more important than predicting what they might become, because we're not the best at predicting the future.
Orville and Wilbur are right. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on the Wright brothers' team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world.
We're typically told to be driven by results, but the most successful people and innovations are actually driven by a burning passion to shift an aspect of society. Similarly, it'll help us to think about the why behind these large-scale projects, which should be to build an end-to-end transportation system that seamlessly moves us from place to place in the safest, most efficient, and environmentally sustainable way. Defining a clearer problem like this gives us a more focused long-term process to follow. Instead of having a singular focus on the returns of an investment, it'd be more helpful to think about the purpose behind these investments. Simply put, we should be investing in the future we want to see.